ESBR Boxing. We are back. Myself and my colleagues, my compadres, Owen and Niall. We are here in big fight breakdown mode. Some people, I suppose, in the boxing sphere are referring to this as an exhibition fight. Some are referring to it as a super fight. But we are talking about the fight between Tommy Fury and KSI, which is taking place in Manchester on the 14th of October. Belt on the line being the MF Cruiserweight Championship, which I don't know, which depending on how you like to sort of, look at the acronym, could be, Misfit Cruiserweight Championship or motherfucker, whichever way the MF tends to work. But Tommy Fury, obviously the WBC Direo champion as well. Guys, look, there's a lot of different people depending on where you sit in the boxing world. See this fight, as you know, as potentially a figure of fun, an exhibition, nothing too serious. Other people see it as, potentially a gateway to a bigger fight with Jake Paul, which we'll probably come on to. We'll start there, really, because obviously I suppose the last time we saw Tommy Fury was against Jake Paul in that split decision victory, which took place in February, which actually was a large occasion, I think it's fair to say. And Jake Paul, again, is a fighter who has fought, granted a lot of guys from mixed martial arts, but equally a lot of credible fighters. When you look at maybe KSI, hasn't necessarily done that. Tommy Fury himself, arguably, even though he's fought professional fighters, most of whom have had losing records, hasn't even necessarily had as good a CV. We debated that on the breakdown previously. But what I'm going to ask you guys first and foremost, is this question. Do you think this 6-round fight, as you obviously informed me there, lads, thank you very much, was 8 rounds, obviously, for Paul versus Fury, but do you consider this fight to be overall, not necessarily just for the duration of the fight, but the opponent as well, an easier fight for Tommy Fury? And I'm going to come to you, Niall, first, please.
Yeah, I do, to be honest. Again, I won't claim to be an expert on KSI's kind of boxing ability, neither him or Jake Paul, the kind of whole YouTube scene. But from what I've seen about men, I think Jake Paul seems to be a lot more kind of fundamentally more sound than KSI. He's a bit more wild. So I think technically Jake Paul is a bit better than KSI is. It will be an easier fight for Fury than Jake Paul. Also, you kind of touch on it there yourself. Jake Paul's fought. Say what you want about MMA guys and the striking for MMA guys, they're tough men. So yeah, it's kind of a lot tougher men than KSI has been fighting. So I do think it'll be an easier night's work for Tommy Fury.
Thank you very much, Niall. Owen, I'm gonna, Owen. Niall declared himself there as, as not a super fan of KSI, but I'd like to bill you possibly as more of a fan, potentially a super fan. I know how you like to refer to yourself around the around the Midlands as a KSI super fan. But you yourself, on this fight, do you think this will be easier night for Tommy Fury than Jake Paul?
I think it's a much easier fight, to be honest. Like when we spoke about before this, I think KSI he tries to box like Wilder, just without the power or the boxing ability. He just comes in, tries to throw these big haymakers, and Niall's done a bit more research into KSI's previous fights. I have watched some of his fights. Not a fact I like to admit, but here we are. And there's times where if you pause it, he's literally throwing punches like this. They're coming from over here. So it's just, for me, Tommy Fury, to be fair to him, he can jab. That's obviously the fundamentals of being in the gym around Tyson for how many years. He's been there since he says he was like 14, 15. So he's got a good jab, to be fair to him, Fury. Not the most powerful, but I think realistically, if he finds that jab in the first round, I genuinely think it's just an easy 6 rounds for him. Whereas, like Niall said, I'm not proclaiming Jake Paul to be a good boxer, but I think he's got better fundamentals than KSI, as in he could probably throw, see him on the pads, he can throw a 1-2 in the left hook or throw an uppercut in or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best or most accurate, but yeah, if you watch KSI, it's more, he's just like around like this. It's a bit mental, to be honest. So I do see it being a much easier night's work for Tommy.
Let me just pick up on something you were saying there. I don't disagree at all what you're saying, but you're saying obviously it might be an easy 6 rounds for Tommy Fury. But what I want to ask you really was, do you think Tommy Fury's got, he's a 9-0 record, 4 KOs in that record, 6-round fight, so not necessarily the longest fight. Do you give Tommy Fury, without wanting to go into predictions, what you think will happen, do you give Tommy Fury a legitimate chance of knocking out KSI here? And if so, what percentage are you of that?
Yeah, I'll completely give him a chance of knocking him out. I don't think KSI has ever actually been punched. like you say, Jake Paul hasn't been in with, like you say, I know they're MMA fighters, but wearing heavier gloves, etc. But they can still throw a punch. So, like you say, whereas KSI's fought that Luis Pinedo, or whatever he was called, who's the most un-Mexican Mexican I've ever seen, who was crying every time he got a punch to the side of the head. KSI has never been punched, so all it takes is a jab, a couple of jabs from Fury, and if KSI doesn't like that, then absolutely, I give Fury a chance. I'm not saying it's like 70-80% chance he's definitely going to knock him out, but I definitely think there is a chance he can knock him out, because all it takes is, we've never seen KSI get punched. I mean, I know we've not exactly seen Jake Paul in wars or any barnstorming fights, but all it takes is that first punch. If KSI doesn't react well to it, John or whoever's in the corner for Tommy is just going to say, absolutely stick it all over him. The old, he doesn't want it cliche shouts, and it could be game over. So probably say, I don't think he'll look for the knockout. So I'd probably say like 30-40%, but I'll definitely give him more chance of knocking out KSI than Jake Paul as well. Definitely.
Niall, would you concur, Owen, there saying a sort of 30-40% chance, and also the chance of potentially if he starts landing the jab and empties the tank, as it were, shuts a few shots of Lions in the camp, he might be able to get the stoppage. Do you think that'll happen, or where are you on it? Do you think he can stop him again? We're not in prediction mode here. We're just talking about whether you think he can stop him.
Yeah, without giving a prediction, I do definitely think he can stop him. I don't, not to slay Tommy Fury. I know we spoke about it before in a previous video. I don't even really particularly rate Tommy Fury within the boxing rounds, to be honest. But as we spoke about, Jake Paul is a better fighter than KSI in our opinion, and Fury should have more than enough to kind of knock him out. Owen made a good point there about him not really ever having taken any sort of a shot from a real fighter. So I think he can knock him out, and I think, to be honest, he should be looking to knock him out here. He should be looking to make that kind of a statement that, like, the Jake Paul fight didn't do Tommy Fury any favors with how he performed tonight. He got dropped and he went to a decision. It was close enough in the end. So I think he should be looking to kind of finish KSI and prove that he's levels above this whole YouTube scene. If he does want kind of aspirations of a career within the boxing world, he has to knock these type of fighters out, these type of people out, in my opinion.
No, you said, let me pick up on this again. Owen was right when he said, obviously, you've out of the three of us, I suppose, been taking the sort of academic approach, the studious approach, really, and you've watched a bit of KSI. So what I want to come on to really is just we'll focus on him now. What attributes do you think he has potentially to trouble Fury? If we I suppose we try and take out the elbow that he hit Fournier with, and then try and focus solely on boxing. Do you see any sort of attributes in his sort of athleticism, in his sort of approach, and any of those those things that can trouble Fury, or do you think it'll be one-way traffic?
Yeah, well, watching this fights kind of in preparation for this video, it is tough to pick out any sort of nuances or things clever stylistically that he does cleverly, but he's very wild. He throws wild hooks. Throws haymakers, gets in. He is athletic. He's very athletic, as you pointed out. So I think his kind of unorthodox nature and his wildness will have to play into his hands here to beat Fury. He has to make it dirty. He has to make it kind of a brawl. Get inside the long arms of Fury. He's not going to outbox him, so just get in and swing and make it ugly, and hopefully he lands. And one of his positive attributes seems to be that he can punch hard. He from people that train him, Vidal Riley or whoever it may be, they do say one thing he has for his size, he's a deceptively hard puncher. So if he can get inside and make Fury engage with him in a firefight, that'll have to be his best chance, because he's not going to outbox him for a decision. And Fury has proved, as we touched on there, the Jake Paul fight didn't do him any favours, and he was dropped. So he's proven he can be caught and dropped by, YouTube boxers. So yeah, just making it ugly on an inside, fighting in a phone booth, that's his best chance for me here.
Owen, you mentioned earlier that KSI likes to throw the sort of windmill punch. Niall there was saying he's obviously got a wild style, a wild nature, which I suppose in some ways could be to his advantage or his disadvantage depending on how the fight plays out. But do you see any other attributes potentially yourself other than what Niall's mentioned there that can potentially lead to success for KSI in this fight?
I'll be a bit harsher. No, none at all. I think unless he can find that wild hook or wild haymaker, I don't think he's got anything to trouble Tommy Fury. Although, like Niall touched on, Tommy Fury didn't come out the Jake Paul fight with flying colours. I think there was times where Jake Paul caught Tommy Fury. That was because he's got better boxing fundamentals than KSI has. I think Tommy Fury, as he's sort of alluded to himself, and John Fury has also sort of alluded to, you could see there was a bit of nerves in there. I think with the pressure of the Jake Paul fight. I think in this one, like Niall touched on as well, I think he should look to stop him because Jake Paul is better in the ring. I just think with KSI, from what I've seen of him, he can obviously, like say Vidal Riley said, he can punch. But the boxing fundamentals, the basics, even on like the pads and the heavy bag, and from what I've seen of him, it just doesn't. There's just nothing there for me personally. So I think he has to land that big shot, and I think his problem is, like Niall said, it needs to be the phone booth fighting, because Tommy Fury, if people haven't noticed, he's got freakishly long arms. So when you actually watch him when he stood throwing the jab out like that, I'd like to see him stood there just with his arms out like this, because his arms are so long. It's if he can get that jab out, then he's just literally puts KSI to bed early. So yeah, there's no attributes where I look at KSI where I think even at the fighter at Tommy Fury's level where you're like, yeah, you can beat him, other than the punch from the gods, we shall say.
Thank you very much. What I want to pick, I suppose you'll pick your brains for the last question really, is you both actually mentioned that the fight in the phone box sort of style approach is the one that KSI needs to adopt. We both alluded to the fact that if Tommy Fury gets his jab going, it could be an easy night, and he can essentially pick a stoppage if he wants it, or just glide to a kind of UD victory, even though it's an exhibition, but glide to a kind of unanimous victory in that way. What I'm going to ask you though is a slightly different question. I'm going to come back to you, Owen, here and say, how do you think the fight will actually play out though over these 6 rounds? Obviously, we saw with Paul and Fury, it was kind of a bit cagey in parts. Obviously, Fury got put down as well, didn't he? And but overall, I think it was kind of accepted that he had the better of the exchanges really throughout most of it, and Jake Paul didn't really seem to get going. But in this fight, how do you see the style of it playing out over 6 rounds?
I think the first round, and I think, as Niall said, KSI wanted it 6, because I think KSI is going to try and get him out early, because the longer it goes on, KSI empties the tank out, Fury just literally boxes and moves and physically does the basics that he'd have been taught when he first stepped into the gym. I think first round KSI is literally just going to come running out, and he's just going to throw everything at Fury. Start obviously slightly tentative, but I think we're just going to see KSI either take a step back and unload with the overhands, or I think he's just going to step in, and you're just going to see 5, 6, 7, 8 different style punches. I mean, with KSI, you don't know what they're going to be, because he's just wild. So I think it'll be that. And to be honest, I think KSI will probably take the first round, maybe even the second, purely on the basis of Fury will tuck in, expecting a storm of just a barrage of all sorts. Because you can't even say it's going to be uppercuts or left hooks, right hooks. It's just going to be anything and everything. Basically, just hands coming at Tommy Fury's head. And then I think the last 4 rounds, Fury will just coast, to be honest. Just pick his jab off, box and move. And then it'll be, if he wants to stop him, it'll be the last round for Fury. So, yeah, I just see an early barrage, we shall say, from KSI, and then Fury just coasting for the rest of it.
Niall, do you concur? Do you think an early sort of salvo from KSI and then possibly the superior conditioning of Fury coming to play later down the stretch?
Yeah, I do. I'd have to agree. I think, I think KSI knows they probably have to start fast in terms of stopping him. We'll have to stop him if he wants a chance of winning this. So he will just step to him and get wild straight away, start swinging for the fences, but I expect Fury to kind of, weather that storm very early and just control it off a jab. You can control the whole thing off his long jab if he wants to, and just do what he wants with him. Eventually, as we said before, I think it's going to be an easier night than Jake Paul, so I think Fury will look better better here and he looked more comfortable in this one. Yeah, just control it. The long jab, control it. You know, easily negate KSI's wildness here, to be honest.
Very much so. I think we're at the time, lads, where we have to put our necks on the line here and we have to come up with a prediction. Obviously, depending on how it works with the old exhibition, but then also kind of giving people, I suppose there's different methods of victory, but we'll take it as all methods of victory are on the table. 6 rounds, Fury versus KSI. Niall, I'm coming to you first. How does it end and who wins?
I'm going to go for Tommy Fury KO within 3 rounds, I'd say. I think if this goes to a decision, I think it'll be a disaster for Fury's image. Even if it goes to a decision, it'll feel like a loss for him. It was bad enough the Jake Paul fight, how close that was, and getting dropped and winning the decision. So he has to win this, and I think he has to win it relatively early. So yeah, Fury within 3.
Niall,
Thank you very much. Very brave and bold prediction there. Owen, do you concur? Fury KO in 3 or outside of 3? Where are you going, please, sir?
No, I'm gonna go with Fury points. I don't think he'll try and empty the tank or anything like that. I think he'll just coast, and I think he'll look to coast and try and say, I'm better than these boys in the aspect of they can't get near me, like they can't lay a glove on me, that sort of thing. I agree with Niall on completely. He should be stopping this caliber of opponents. I know I didn't give him the highest chance of knocking KSI out, but if Tommy Fury wants a career in boxing, what career that may be, he might get to the highest heights of an international title or something like that. An area level champion, maybe. Who knows? I just think if he doesn't win this one in style, then I think he should just stick to the influencer fighting and just make as much money as he can from that. Other than that, yeah, I think he'll just coast to a points victory and underwhelming, to be fair. Because, like I say, he did do all right against Jake Paul, but nothing amazing. And again, if he doesn't do anything amazing against KSI, then what do you do other than fight a few more influencers? I mean, I'm not exactly clued up on who's who within that realm, but I'm sure there's someone, maybe even Logan Paul could pop in and fight him. But yeah, I think it's a comfortable points victory for Tommy Fury.
So I'm gonna throw my name to him. So I actually, to be honest with you, can kind of agree with both of you. I think Tommy Fury wins easily, but to me, it's about attitude and the sense of whether it's an exhibition. Does he try and stick it on KSI and stop him? I think he can stop him, frankly, if he wants to. I kind of agree with Owen though. I kind of feel like there might be part of him which just won't have that kind of instinct to do so. So I think if it does come, it'll be late. I hope to see KO in 3. I hope Niall was right, but I'm going to go with Fury. Maybe a stoppage in 6. Stoppage in 6th round, maybe, but kind of coasting, like Owen says. Lads, 2 more questions. These can be very quick fire questions. So simply yes or no. Winner of this fight, do they fight Jake Paul? Niall, I'm coming to you first.
I think the loser of this fight is going to fight Jake Paul. I think KSI and Jake Paul next, and I think Fury fights Logan Paul.
Owen, do you agree?
Yeah, concur with both of those.
And secondly, are you more excited for this fight or are you more excited for the Dylan Dennis Logan Paul fight? Owen, you first.
Purely because of the Twitter build-up, Dylan Dennis, Logan Paul.
Niall, agree or disagree?
I'd have to agree, purely for the build-up. I think Logan Paul will beat him easily, but I'm more excited for that, I'd say, yeah.
Lads, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the breakdown. Thank you very much for your insight, your expertise, your influence as it was on this video. So all I have to say really is, guys, thank you very much for watching. Obviously, check out the channel. We've got other stuff, written previews and other sort of interviews from undercard fighters and things of that nature, deep dives on other fights and reviews and previews and all that good stuff. Let us know in the comments whether you agree with Owen, whether you agree with Niall, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with all 3 of us. Love and hate is welcome in equal measure when it comes to the comments. So thank you very much for that. And guys, Niall and Owen, one more time, thank you very much for joining me.